These webinars are titled Survive and Thrive Fridays, and started these a number of weeks ago, first with my clients, and then we've expanded it to anybody who is interested in joining, and I've been blessed with having a number of folks come alongside and share their expertise. And again, want to thank Ashley and Todd for your generosity today. The whole intent of these groups is to have like-minded business owners have an opportunity to learn from each other, share best practices, get support from one another, and most importantly, build community. The thing I hear a lot is it's lonely at the top, and business owners wrestle with the idea that they don't really have anyone to turn to and talk to and think out loud on stuff. So that's the purpose of this group, is to build that community and give each of us that support as we've been struggling through the last 7 weeks or so of isolation and restrictions. So my name's Tim Campsell. I am the owner of a local franchise of Action Coach, and I have been in business for over 28 years, but have owned this franchise for just under a year. And a little bit about Action Coach. It is privately owned and founded by Brad Sugars, who is is an entrepreneur and owner. Our vision is world abundance through business re-education. What that means is that there are a number of businesses who aren't following best practices of how to run a great business. And so our vision is the more people that can be taught how to run a great business, then the sky's really the limit for the opportunities of those businesses. Because if you're running a great business and all your competitors are not, then the opportunity for you to grow is that idea of world abundance. Action Coach is the world's number one business coaching firm. We've got we coach over 15,000 businesses each week around the world, and we've got about 1,000 offices in over 80 countries around the world. Our philosophy or principle is that we define a business differently than most. So to us, a successful business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that's able to work without you, the business owner. And our flagship process is called the 6 Steps to Building a Better Business, and that's what's shown there on the left. The idea of it there is you start at the foundation level of your business, get the fundamentals in place, move into creating a niche, the marketing and sales activities that we're going to be talking about today, move into leverage, which is all about systems, making sure that the company's running more efficiently and effectively, then make sure you've got the right team in place. When you've got the systems and the team in place, they are able to run the business for you, so you as the business owner can pull out of the day-to-day. That moves you up to synergy, which is now you've got a business where 1 + 1 = more than 2. You've got a well-oiled machine. You as the business owner can start to think about what's next. Right? Do I want to start another business, open another location, expand? All of that's possible if you're not stuck in the day-to-day of your business. So the agenda for today is I'm going to open up here with a mindset topic. Then we'll get into the panel discussion. We'll then open it up for Q&A and best practice sharing from everyone on the call today. Got a special offer at the end, go through some future webinars and seminars that I'm running, and then we'll end it with next steps. So in terms of today's mindset, the formula for change. What is the formula for change, you may ask? It is D times V plus F has to be greater than R. Right? And what those letters mean is your dissatisfaction with your current state. So in order for anybody to change, they have to be dissatisfied with what's going on in your life today, whether that's in your business life or your personal life. But equally important is understanding what a better tomorrow could look like. So having that vision of, what's going to be, what's going to change, and how can that change, and what does that change look like? And then having an understanding of what are the first couple steps that I need to take to get there. So for example, for today, right, if your dissatisfaction is you're not happy with your marketing, right, and maybe you don't have a vision for what that looks like, your first step was joining this webinar to learn a little bit more about marketing and how you can improve your marketing efforts by learning from my guest panelists here. And so all of that has to be greater than your resistance to change, right? We all, generally speaking, prefer our comfort zone, right? We all dislike change. We all want to stay, where we're at. And so we all have to reflect on this formula. And if we're not changing, right, if we're not seeing ourselves moving forward, we've got to reflect on, well, maybe my dissatisfaction is not enough, right? Maybe it's not big enough. Maybe I have to dig into that a little more. So one of the things that I do with prospects is really ask a lot of questions and understand, what is the dissatisfaction and the things that they're not happy with within their business, to really draw that out. And then painting a picture of what a better tomorrow can look like. So for everybody, you need to go through that exercise on your own and figure out, what's it going to take in order for you to get to that better tomorrow. All right. So now I'm going to have our panelists introduce themselves, share a little bit about themselves, their company, what they do, and then the topic for today on marketing. They're going to share some best practices and some insights. And Ashley, we'll start with you.
No pressure. Oh man. Hey everyone, really excited to be here today. I'm Ashley Monk. I own It Media, and we are what I call a boutique agency. And so really what we do is we help businesses get their name out on social media. And we do that through what we call organic social. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the great content marketing, in addition to paid traffic through Facebook and Instagram targeted marketing, and then email automation as well. So we primarily serve a lot of B2C companies in the area, and really excited to share just some of the tactical approaches that I hope that you can leave today and implement. Wonderful. I muted myself, otherwise I would talk for like an hour, is what I'm told on Zoom calls. So that's usually how it goes.
That'll work. Actually, I didn't come prepared today, so you take as much time as you want.
Hey, I love it. Yeah. Do you want to dive? I mean, I figured, Tim or Todd, did you want to introduce yourself too? And then, because Todd and I talked a while on the phone too, which is fantastic. And Todd's got some big picture stuff, and I think it'll marry really well with some of the hands-on practical stuff that I've got as well.
Yeah. Thanks. So I'm Todd Reimer, CEO of Element 212. We are essentially a strategic and consultative marketing company. I mean, essentially, we are also on the outside look like a digital agency, because we do all the digital services. But by being a more of a consultative and strategic company, the benefits to our clients is that everything we do is based on quantitative and qualitative research and data. In fact, we've actually trademarked something called the brand insights for that very process. What it basically does, it takes the guesswork out of your marketing by getting feedback from all your internal shareholders, as well as your external brand advocates. So we answer basically any question, quandary, challenge you're having. It all starts with real data, but not just numbers. It really starts with really understanding your customer, how they behave, why they do, what they like about you, and getting it from everyone from service to sales to operations and marketing, as well as your actual customers and clients. So, which ties in real well to what I'm going to share today. I'm going to be talking a lot about knowing your customer really well, understanding consumer behavior, and how that affects not only your marketing, but your overall business as you try to go from survive to thrive.
Well, thank you both for the introduction. Ashley, will we start with you and have you share with us some nuggets and insights and wisdom that we can all take away?
I can do that. Yeah. And so I will focus on, sorry if you hear, I am going to apologize in advance. We have pet hospital happening in my house. So if you hear a loud noise, it is my Alaskan Malamute snoring. So sorry. So I'm going to focus on just kind of on a micro level. Todd's got the amazing kind of big picture consumer behavior messaging side. And so they'll complement each other really nicely. And I think when he speaks as well, it'll connect the dots really well. And so really everything that I'm about to say, the foundation will come from everything that Todd is going to share with you today. So first and foremost, I kind of want to dig in the chat box too. If you can kind of help me, I'm going to tailor this a lot of to the industries that are here. Would you go ahead and leave a quick comment of what industry that you're in and kind of who who you typically work with, and I will focus on those platforms. But really, what I want to share is some of the day-to-day attributes and the small tactics that you can go and execute right here and right now. Okay, we've got real estate in the here and now to move the needle. Portrait photographer, perfect. Okay, we've got some B2C. Do we have anybody B2B as well? Depending on your market, I can talk about specific strategies for each channel. Cost reduction. Okay, good. We've got a mix. Keep commenting. I'm in there. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat box. Todd, Tim, you can interrupt me if there's a specific question I can address. But I really want to focus on just some of the biggest mistakes I see business owners making right now. I usually like to be an optimist and focus on the things we're doing well, but sometimes I think we learn better from failure. And so when I've been working with clients right now, specifically with social media and advertising, really, I think we've been able to help pivot from some of the mistakes and failures that they've made and be able to actually capitalize on those and turn them into opportunity. Okay, B2B, perfect. So I'll talk about some channels for you guys. And what I have seen, and maybe you've seen it across different industries as well, is that so many companies, so many business owners have just felt paralyzed since the pandemic began. And it's kind of this scary word. And so many people, when it comes to their content, they just go into this state of either paralysis where they don't want to post anything at all, or they maybe tend to just go the other end of the spectrum, which is only creating content about being really sensitive to the circumstances that are going on. And so we kind of are jumping from one extreme to the other. So we've got the people in one camp that are just like, what do I do? What do I say? And then the other camp that's just kind of treading water. And the truth is we're not really doing anything effective. And so when it comes to the execution of your overall content, regardless of the channel that you're on, whether that's social media, email, any of your lead generation, any of your web efforts, your blogs, anything, you really kind of want to figure out what your priorities are going to be from your messaging, and also just really be specific on what you're saying. And I think one of those mistakes that I have seen so frequently, and I'm sure that you all have too, is that business owners right now are terrified to sell their products or services. Everyone is so nervous when it comes to their messaging specifically and the content that they're putting out. From a micro level, I am seeing a lot of content posts across the board, regardless of the platform, just about either kind of fluff content or evergreen content that is kind of universal and it's safe, so to speak, or a lot of people have been silent and just are not saying anything. And really, there's just something to be said about each one of us has, and I think, Tim, you said it best, when we support local businesses right now and we continue to help each other and promote our services, we do save the economy. I mean, if we do not promote what we're doing and continue to just sell intentionally, I mean, we don't have to throw our products out there, our services out there in a way that's insensitive to everyone around us. But when we stop selling completely, I mean, think about just the ripple effect that has. And so I want to talk about kind of the anatomy of your content today, from both just specifically the organic social side, kind of what that looks like, how we can tailor that during the circumstances, and then in addition, if you're looking at paid advertising, how we can almost systematize that process. So right now, the anatomy of really effective content marketing, I would say from a social media standpoint, is you want to have, of course, your attention getter and your copywriting and your caption. You want to have some form of value, whether it be a few bullet points about your product or service, telling a story about what it is that you do to paint a picture in a way that is easier for your audience to understand, or really kind of going after a problem and agitating that problem and going toward a solution. Finally, with a call to action. So how does that translate, and what does that look like during COVID-19? Well, I think now more than ever, so let me just look at some of these examples in the chat. Real estate. For example, let's just look at some really specific industries and how I would address that from a content marketing standpoint, so I can hopefully give you some tactical principles to execute. When I've written content for real estate clients in the past, usually we're pushing things like, now's the time to buy, so much opportunity, right? The market is crazy good. We're kind of doing more inbound related content on building, just a lot of really exciting opportunities, and it's maybe a little bit more promotional, so to speak. But right now, an example of how I would pivot maybe real estate content would be, most realtors are like, man, like a few of my clients have said, should I really be celebrating being the top in my industry, my market right now when so many people are suffering? And my answer is yes, because look at who you just helped, like in the circumstances, like look at the story that you can tell in your content, and post on your LinkedIn or on your Facebook of that person that you were able to help find some form of stability in the midst of really just uncertain circumstances. And so when you look at your content from that perspective and almost reframe it, there is so much value in what you're doing, and the value proposition. Maybe it's not, no longer is it necessarily saving money or moving at a certain time or getting the right school district. The value proposition now that you provide in real estate is maybe helping somebody, yeah, find that home and find that stability. For a photographer, let's talk about some specific ways that you can be engaging on Facebook. So anybody that's kind of, I've seen a lot of marketing, and other people in just professional services just be so nervous to pitch themselves right now or to even post content. But I would say, even as a portrait photographer, right now, another way that you could be able to pivot is be telling stories with portraits or images on your Facebook and Instagram. So examples being just really highlighting and just spreading encouragement and positivity and marketing in a way that maybe isn't necessarily, if you can't see people in the studio right now, or if clients are more hesitant to shoot. I mean, an alternative would be that you could be sharing stories and trying to fill your pipeline maybe for a month from now, and using some of your favorite portraits or just clients that you've had in the past that you want to highlight, and going on Facebook, tagging them on Facebook and Instagram to just share those stories. So those are just a couple of quick examples from a content standpoint. So if you have questions on that, feel free to comment. And now let me give you, from a kind of high level, what I would do from a strategic perspective to maybe automate that and to implement that process. So one of the biggest things that I see as well is, especially from, and I know we've got kind of a mix here between small to medium business size, and usually the struggle I see is just trying to figure out the time to implement and how to streamline that content. And so my recommendation would be using all of this time that you have right now as an advantage to come up with a system and a marketing strategy to automate what you are doing. And so, to give you kind of some quick nuggets and action steps, I would, if you haven't already, this is an amazing time to work on what I call a batching strategy when it comes to your content. So I'm not sure how many people on this call do. I know we've got people in all different places. I automate personally all of the content that I put on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Google My Business. I use software to essentially automate that entire process. And when I create my content, I do it in blocks to try to come up with different themes. So since I sell social media, right, my value proposition is saving business owners time so that they can get noticed and create content that's not super salesy, but just is really educational and valuable. And so I typically will tend to batch my content by topic or what I talk about in kind of my software system. So that's one tangible thing. Another thing that you can kind of do is, what Tim is doing on these webinars is really an ingenious way to market as well. Think about if you're maybe less comfortable or you're just stressed out about the time that it would come to add a channel to your marketing strategy or just add yet another thing to your never ending to-do list. Doing a webinar or a call like this and sharing about it on social media is another really effective way to just dive into spreading, kind of like we're basically all working together and attracting different audiences and coming together for a combined purpose. It's another really great way to provide value for different people that may or may not have connected otherwise. So those are just some quick areas to get involved in. Finally, one more nugget, and I will turn it back over to Todd, and then hopefully be able to address some questions, and maybe we can have a conversation after Tim, you present as well. But the last nugget of implementation that I would say is incredibly important now more than ever would be actually engaging with your ideal client on any channel that you're on. And so I would say LinkedIn InMail is probably going to be one of the most effective ways, especially if you're in B2B or if you're working with other business owners. Just the amount of people that are on, like, just so attentive to their messages right now, just being attentive to their engagement, and even Facebook business pages. I've been going on and just sending a lot of messages and just really approaching it not from necessarily pitching clients. And if you can just pivot everything that you do on social media to sending messages to create conversation, there's so much value that's going to come from sparking those original conversations. So that's kind of a little bit, I know Todd will kind of connect the dots with the high level, because of course, everything that we do on this micro level is going to be contingent on who your audience is, how customers are buying during this period. So I'll kind of hand it back over to him. And then if you have any specific questions, just be thinking about maybe how to use social media tangibly, email automation, in addition to Facebook paid traffic or Instagram paid traffic. I'd love to answer those as well. But I will hand it over to you, Todd.
Thanks, Ashley. Man, you are full of energy, man. I'm ready to go for a run. I love it. I absolutely love it. So, yeah, Ashley and I actually did talk before today. We wanted to kind of compare notes. We wanted to make sure that as best we could, what we shared complemented one another. We wanted to make sure you guys walked away with some tangible things. I don't have a lot to share. When I do things like this, I look at it like I'll attend webinars, and a lot of times people hit you with so many things, and it's hard. We get on a webinar, the topic looks really good, we listen to it, we take good notes, and then we never do anything. Maybe that's just myself, but I've talked to other people. We tend to be good at looking busy, and we take really good notes, but we don't actually execute or implement them. And I think the reason why is a lot of times the content's very overwhelming. And I always say about marketing is both the easiest thing and it's also the most difficult. It's easy to understand the concept of marketing. And you can learn about different concepts and different ideas, but the actual to really, really understand it, to really execute it, to become an expert at it, it's really hard. And I think the reason why it's hard is, number one, unless you do it for a living, it takes a long time to become an expert at SEO, digital advertising, video. I mean, just try to imagine all the things that you have to do to really execute marketing at a optimal level. And number one, you don't have the time, you don't have the knowledge, or you don't have the resources. That's what faces many of us, not just solopreneurs, but even small teams. And sometimes even medium-sized teams struggle. They may have a director of marketing or a marketing assistant, but again, they can only do so much. There's only so many hours in a day, and you only know so much. So a lot of people get really stressed out. They get really stressed about, what do I do? And I agree with a lot of what Ashley's saying. There are some tangible things. The stuff that she's talking about are things that you don't have to be an expert in marketing to do. And you can definitely play around. And I would encourage you to hire or at least get a consultation from someone like Ashley in the area of digital advertising and social media, because the more you can have that one-on-one experience, the better. But there is something, you don't have to be an expert at marketing to be able to do one thing. And what you can do is you could focus on really understanding your customer. And I'm telling you right now, I would encourage all of you not to get too wrapped up in whether you use this platform or that platform and get yourself all stressed out and overwhelmed. I would encourage you all, whether it's pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, getting back to the new way of doing things, whatever you call it. The bottom line is, a lot of people forget that they're so focused on what they sell and how they're going to sell it, they forget who they're selling it to. I mean, it's super, super critical. So what I would encourage everyone to do, and I do want to just focus on this one thing, because I want to give you guys one thing that you can think about, and literally all of you can do. You don't have to be a marketing expert to do it. So if you have pen and paper, the next thing I'm going to share with you, I'd like for you to write this down. Okay? It's a step, it's a process. I don't have a name for it, but here's what you do. You ask, you listen, you learn, you adapt, you implement and execute, you grow, and then you thrive. Ask, listen, learn, adapt, implement, execute, grow, thrive. Okay? What I would encourage all of you to do, and I believe, and there's actually someone on this call who I went through this exercise with one-on-one, and it seemed to be of help. You can sit in a room by yourself. You can sit in a room with other people on your team for a whole week. You can take a trip to Vegas, sit in a conference room all day. The bottom line is you're still never really going to know what your customer wants, because you're still going to be guessing, and you're still going to be going based on your own preconceived notions, and you're not really learning and you're not really growing because you're limited based on what you've already been doing. And you can definitely read blogs and you can definitely learn about all these different tactics, but the bottom line is no one cares more about your business than your client. They know your business sometimes better than you do, because they're the ones going through the buyer's journey. They're the ones going through the customer experience. If you want to do better in marketing, if you want to have a better customer experience, if you want to be the best you can possibly be, the best thing to do is talk to your team on a one-on-one basis. Go to your sales team, go to your operations, go to your customer service, go to your lost leads, go to your current customers. Find out why they love your brand. Have questions. If you want to improve in a certain area, ask them. I'm telling you right now, marketing is complicated because we make it complicated by trying to learn so much and try to figure all these things out. But I'm telling you, if you don't know your customer well, if you don't know why they do what they do, why they love you, what they like about you, what you can improve in, you're really, really never going to get much better than you are. It's going to be guessing. It's going to be throwing things out there, and you're never going to have tangible results. So I would encourage everyone to ask your customers important questions, listen to what they have to say, learn from that. Put your pride aside. No matter how smart you are, no matter how much you know your business, learn from your customers. And I will tell you too, you're not going to hear this much from a marketing person, but I'm going to tell you, marketing is not the answer to everything. Marketing is a big, and Tim will tell you this. Tim, I'm sure, Tim, when you do your coaching, you probably look at sales, you look at service, you look at operations, you look at every touch point, you look at every aspect of the business. Marketing should be a part of every aspect of your business, every single touch point, but it is not the end all be all. It's just one component. So if your customers can give you feedback on everything from your marketing to your messaging, to your customer service, to your sales, to your operations, to all your touch points. I always tell people you can do $100 million in marketing, and if someone answers the phone in your business and they go, "What the hell do you want?" you just waste $1 million. So it's really, really important to know your customer, get feedback from them, implement what you learn, and continue to improve from that. And there's just a couple other little things I want to add to that. In that, find out what your customer wants. Find out what they need. Find out what they like. What experiences do they expect from you? What are they seeking from you? And we heard a lot about this through this pandemic, but this is nothing new. This should have been going on for forever, and it should continue to go on. Serve your customer. Help your customer. Engage with them as often as you can. And I don't necessarily mean newsletters. I mean on a real personal, relational level. Really, when it comes down to it, marketing is relationships. It's really about relationships. If all you have is a gadget or a service you're trying to sell, and you're just trying to, what's the best way to sell what I sell? You don't care about your customer. You don't really know how to engage with them. You don't care about them. You don't talk to them. You don't build relationships. You're going to be limiting yourself, and you're not really going to thrive. So discover those answers through surveys, one-on-one interviews with the focus groups. And what I will tell you is, marketing should not be a tactic. Marketing should be a habit. Okay, what we do because of who we are, because of who our customer is, and what's the best way to communicate and engage with them. Marketing is a habit, not a tactic. Basically, the tactics are just strategic executions once you know your customers well. That's about it. So nothing fancy, nothing complicated. I put a lot of thought in. I had a whole bunch of statistics I was going to share with you guys. And when it really boiled down to, when I thought about what Ashley was going to share, when I thought about, what I'm passionate about, what I think is most important, as we go from the survive to thrive, as we go from pre-pandemic, pandemic, coming out of it and going, there are certain things that are going to stick. And I'm telling you now, one thing's never going to change going forward. Your customers are going to, if they know you care about them, if they know that you're selling them something because they need it and they want it and you know how to deliver it, they're going to be customers for life. So these days of, I have something to sell, and whoever puts out the most creative message is going to win. I'm telling you right now, post-pandemic, just like now, people are going to want to know if you're ethical, what your values are, what you care about, and more importantly, they're going to want to know you care about them. That's how you're going to go from surviving to thriving. That's going to last for a very long time. And that's it.
Thank you, Todd. So just building on a couple things that both of you mentioned. So if you remember back to that 6 steps that I shared at the beginning, right? Todd said, hey, your marketing isn't going to be the end all and be all. So one of the things that we do at that mastery level is delivery mastery, and have clients look at, are they meeting and beating customer expectations? And do they have a mechanism in place to know that they're consistently meeting expectations? Because if they're not, the last thing you want to do is to turn on your marketing and sales engine and bring more customers into your business and not meet their expectations, and then have them talking negatively about you out into the marketplace. The second thing, and Ashley talked about this as well, is you got to make sure you know what you want to talk about, right? So again, if you just turn on marketing for the sake of turning on marketing because people told you have to market, and you're trying to say all things to all people, right? You end up saying nothing to anybody, right? And then you're wasting your marketing dollars. And there's a common phrase out there that marketing is an expense, and from an accounting standpoint, it is treated as an expense. The reason it's treated as an expense is because 80% of marketing fails. Right? The reason 80% of marketing fails is because it's bad marketing, right? And most people don't go through the exercise of being strategic and measuring and making sure they understand if their marketing is working. Right? The goal is to get to the point where you understand each marketing tactic that you're doing, and you have a way to measure the effectiveness of it and determine if there's a return on investment or not. Right? So step 2 in our process is, we call it a niche, right? So the idea there is, what is your unique selling proposition? Right? What is it that differentiates you from your competitors, right? Allows you to stand out, right? As Ashley was saying, right? How do you solve their problems or their needs in a unique way that allows you to charge the price that gives you a sustainable business model? And don't start marketing until you know what those things are. So back to Todd's point, right? Who is your ideal customer or your ideal client? What are their problems? What are their needs? And how do you uniquely solve for that? I do a lot of marketing ad critiques, and so I score it out of a score of 21. And the 4 areas that we focus on is who's your target, right? And what's their problem or need? Then how are you uniquely solving for that problem or need? What's your offer, and what's your call, and is there a call to action? And most of the marketing that I critique for clients get scores less than 50%, because here's what most people do. They put their big logo at the top, right? Then they list a bunch of bullet points of all the services and activities that they provide, and then big contact information at the bottom with a phone number and a logo. And what that says is me, 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 right? And so imagine we're all busy, right? We're flipping through magazine ads and we see a whole bunch of all about the company. We just keep flipping, right? Until you get to the one that the headline speaks to you and almost like they know who you are, right? And it's the problem that you've got going on in your life, and there's a magic way to solve it. And now you start to read that ad. And so the unfortunate thing, back to that 80%, is there's a lot of folks out there selling advertising or selling marketing that don't have that best practice understanding, right? Or a lot of people are doing it on their own without understanding what makes a great ad. And so we're putting ineffective pieces of marketing out into the marketplace and then wondering why it doesn't work. And then we get a paradigm of, oh, well, marketing is just expensive, I'm not going to do it. There's a lot of marketing that, and I'm going to actually flip here to a slide. There's a lot of marketing out there that we can do for free, right? And then as we start to build our business, we can then supplement it with paid programs. So the idea of at a high level of marketing that we teach we call it the rule of 10 by 10. So the idea here is that you should have 10 different marketing strategies in play at all times that account for about 10% of your lead expectations. Because the reality of marketing is there's no silver bullet, right? The something that worked well this month isn't necessarily going to work as well next month. So we don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. So if you think of this diving board, right? The way it is right now, it's just got one leg, and on the end, the person there, if this is you, the business owner, right? You're kind of bouncing around, right? Hoping that one marketing strategy is going to be your silver bullet and save your business, right? But if it doesn't work, I have a client who signed up for a marketing activity and contracted for an 18-month program, and it was her entire marketing budget, and she found out that it's not working. And so now she's stuck for 18 months in a program that's not working. So the idea of the 10 by 10, right, is build a foundation under that diving board, right, with 10 different strategies, so that if a couple of them don't work, it's fine because you still got other programs that are working. And then the idea over time is test and measure, right? So on each of those marketing programs, put a process in place where you can get feedback on, is that program working or not? If not, how might I optimize it or course correct it over time? What things can I change and adjust and measure some more? And then ultimately, if after a couple months it's not working, get rid of it and replace it with something that is. The whole goal is marketing is an investment, and there's a return on that investment. So if we put in $1, we're going to get more than $1 back. And if it's truly an investment, then we'd all be willing to invest more in marketing if we know that it's going to return us more than we put into it, right? But again, it's not a silver bullet. There's no perfect solution. And so it does take some time working with the programs that you're implementing to optimize it. And one of the things that I hear often is, and I'm sure Ashley, you hear this a lot too, is, well, I hired somebody to do my marketing for me and I didn't get the results in the first month. Well, it's because it takes time. It's because of what I just talked through, right? Ashley and everybody in the marketing industry, there is no perfect silver bullet answer, right? We've got to know who our target is, as Todd talked about, and we've got to figure out the right ways to talk to them and to get them interested enough to take that next step. Okay. So I did share earlier that we were going to have 10 different strategies. So some of these have been talked about. I'm going to talk through a few of these as well, but this will certainly be a leave behind in this video that you're able to refer back to earlier. And I see that I have a typo there. It's YouTube is definitely not spelled that way, so forgive me for that. So existing clients, right? We can reach out to our existing clients and ask them for referrals to other people that they know that are similar to them, right? And that's free. Or it can be free, right? There's ways to do it that's paid, but certainly you can reach out, phone call your existing clients and ask them for referrals. You can ask them too to buy more from you, right? They may not be aware of all the services that you provide. Find that happens a lot is somebody will call a client and ask for a specific thing, and that's what the client ends up selling them. And I asked, so did you share with them the list of all the other services or products that you provide? Well, no, I didn't. They didn't ask about that, right? So you're leaving money on the table. Networking, we talked about, right? There's lots of opportunities within the greater Indy area to get out and about and meet other people that may either be, prospects for us or strategic partners. Ashley talked a lot about digital and social, as well as email, phone calls, right? There's phone calls are probably the thing that most people I talk to are scared of, right? It's intimidating. You don't want the rejection. But here's the interesting thing about cold calling as an example. It works. It's just a numbers game, right? So you need to figure out a couple of things in your business of what's the right script to use. And when I mean script, I don't mean, you read it verbatim, right? It's more what's the general way that you're going to communicate with the person when they pick up the phone or you get their voicemail, right? And that's an art and a skill as well, right? You've got to perfect that message and get it right so that when you do, get lucky enough to have somebody answer the phone, that you hook them right away. Just like Ashley was saying earlier, the same way that we want to make sure our other marketing hooks our target audience, our phone calls need to be the same. But it's a math exercise, right? So you'll find out in your own business, how many calls do I need to make to get somebody to say yes? And once you know what that is, now you know, right? Now you can just set up a game for yourself that says, okay, I need to call 50 people to get one person to say yes. So, all right, how many yeses do I want this week? And that determines how many calls you have to make. Lumpy mail is one of my favorite. So everybody gets mail, right? And usually it's a flat envelope. Lumpy mail is to put something in there that catches their attention, right? Something that makes the envelope look weird or different or unique, and it's going to get the folks to open it up. Physical billboards and magazines, all those things are things that are very common to use. So my ask to you, my task to you is to go through your own business and think about what are the 10 different marketing strategies that I can start executing for myself. And some of those, again, can be free, right? Some of them are going to be paid. And as you can see from this list, there may be things on here that you might not have thought about as quote unquote marketing. So it's quite easy to get up to a number of 10 relatively fast. And I talked about this earlier, right? The whole idea of marketing, the where the magic comes in, where it starts to work is when you know your numbers, right? When you don't just blindly sign up to do something and throw stuff out into the marketplace, but you have a process in place to be able to test if it's working or not. Right? And this is where you can rely on folks like Ashley and Todd to help you through that. Right? They've got processes and procedures and technologies to be able to help with that. On a rudimentary way, one of the ways that I recommend my clients do this is have a piece of paper, if it's a retail environment, right? Have a piece of paper at the cash register and write down all the different ways that somebody might hear about you, and ask every single person that comes in, hey, if you wouldn't mind, help me be better at running my business. How did you hear about us? Right? And then check a box to whatever marketing activity they said. And that's a roughly right way to understand if your marketing activities are working for you or not. So I'm going to pause there and see if there's any questions from anyone today that Ashley or Todd and I can answer.
Tim, on your 10 marketing strategies, what's the difference between marketing towards existing clients and then number 2, client referrals?
Yeah, good question. So marketing towards existing clients would be that idea of asking them, sharing other services that you provide, or asking them to come back and buy from you again. This is a very good illustration. So haircuts, right? Before we weren't able to get our haircut, we probably all had some idea of what a regular cadence was of haircuts, right? So for me, it should be 4 weeks. It hasn't been, and I have it all slicked to the back so you can't tell. But I don't always go every 4 weeks. Sometimes, right, it's 5 or 6, depending on what's going on in my life. If the salon was to pre-book my appointment for every 4 weeks, they're actually going to make more money from me in a year than if they leave it up to me trying to get back on a 4-week basis. So that's the idea of reaching out for that. The referrals is obviously, hey, is there anyone else that you know that may be able to, that you can refer me to? And this was mentioned earlier too, is asking for testimonials or references, right? Things of your happy clients or your happy customers enjoy you as a vendor or a supplier right? So get them to write that down for you. Put a Google review out there or put it on your website. For me, when I'm working with prospects, I mail them out my testimonials as part of the information packet that they receive from me. Right? And it's just another way for them to feel more confident about working with me when they're able to talk to other people who have been happy with my services. Does that answer your question, John? Great. Any other questions or builds on anything that's been shared? Other insights from the rest of the group?
Okay, I'll go. Oh, Gary, did you raise your hand?
I did.
Go ahead.
At least from a business to business sales standpoint, I still think it comes back to building relationships. And it's not always an immediate sale. And maybe now is a time where our most benefits may come from building the relationship. So when the time is right, we've built more than just being a number.
Ashley, you talked a little bit about that earlier. Do you want to take that one?
Sure. Can you ask that? Can you simplify that question for me a little bit so I can break it down better?
I think he was more sharing that his belief is building relationships is valuable and can lead to future sales, and you talked about that earlier too. So just anything to add to that?
Well,
Yeah.
can I add to that before you start, Ashley?
Yeah.
So it was sort of a statement, but so in this trying time, maybe from a social media standpoint, how do we position ourselves in the various platforms as an expert, maybe too, to build on the relationship? So, I mean, it comes full circle, and then they see us on social media, and then see that expertise, see that blog, see that webinar, whatever it is, to help build the relationship to make it stronger.
I love that. That's a great way to phrase that. Thank you for that. I would say there are two components. The first is just creating quality content and providing value. The second is consistency. And I always say that quality is far more important than quantity, just because it's really easy to just put out different things here and there. The goal, of course, is to really put intention behind what you're going to put out there, because if no one's commenting or no one's engaging or it doesn't serve anyone, then really it's just a waste of your time and it's just going to get lost in a shuffle. So I would say when it comes to building those relationships, I would say anything that you can do. The entire theory of inbound marketing is based on service over selling. So anything that you can do to provide value and to educate your audience on why your service is the solution without selling it to them is going to be so valuable. So regardless of your market, just different ways. Like I know for me, one of the things that I try to do is just breaking down in a way that is easier for my audience to understand what it is that I do. Because for all of us, regardless of our industry, our audience doesn't care about all the jargon, all the things that we know, all the certifications we have. They care if we can solve their problem. And when it comes to making that decision, they want to know why we're the person that can solve their problem better than the next person can. So I would say the way that translates, it's going to look different from person to person, from company to company. For me, what I try to do is use storytelling and analogies. So I could use all sorts of fun, fancy buzzwords about here's the ROI and here's all the stats that I got and here's like the CTR rate that I got in this campaign. But no one outside of my industry cares or can really, they might use some of those metrics to try to, I don't know, maintain some sort of a conversation. But what they do understand when I describe how Facebook advertising works is most people have been to a silent auction. And so most people can understand that when you go to a silent auction, the amount of people there that are bidding is going to determine the price of the item. And then, of course, if you're bidding against maybe a brand new car or something in your mom's garage, obviously one's more valuable than the other. So when it comes to building those relationships, I think it's breaking down your service in a way on social media that's going to be relevant to your readers that they'll understand, but also in a way, again, that's just really, you're inadvertently selling to them and marketing by educating them on why you're the solution to your problem. And then, of course, the incentive to buy from you comes when you do that day in or day out. It's going for the long game instead of, especially with marketing in this, you're running like a paid traffic campaign, but specifically with social media, it is going toward that nurturing in the long haul and building that relationship over time rather than the sign up now for this exclusive offer.
John, did you have another question?
Please. I have another question for Ashley, actually. You brought up, and thank you for bringing up LinkedIn. I have, before getting into real estate, now B2C, I have pretty long background of B2B contacts, and majority of those are built in LinkedIn. How is LinkedIn best used for B2C? Leave it at that.
I love that. Who are you typically going after, homeowners, or tell me about your market specifically? Anyone? Give me just a rough example of a client you work with.
How about a first-time home buyer?
Perfect. Okay. I love it. I would say specifically for your market, one of the most, obviously you're not going to hit everyone, right? So it depends, again, everything that Todd said about knowing exactly who that person is key. A specific way that I would translate that to your industry would be, one, trying to build relationships with other professionals that maybe like lenders or other people that are influential in the buying process that can give you referrals. And then B, specifically for going after your market, going after the home buyers that maybe, if you're going after a first-time home buyer, obviously the mom with young kids and running around, staying at home, she's probably not going to be on LinkedIn. But the young professional, millennial first
I don't
buyer. What's that?
I just said that.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear. I didn't know
Somebody
that was
unmuted.
Oh, but yeah. So I would say you just really it goes back to knowing your audience, but specifically from your context, what I would do if I were you would be creating valuable content to form strategic partnerships with other people that can create referrals within your industry, so that you're just getting a wider reach, in addition to educating that maybe intellectual FSBO kind of person, that just the things that they wouldn't know, or what would they think. It just goes back to consumer psychology. What are some of the things that a first-time home buyer needs to know that maybe they don't recognize that are going to be pertinent to the platform? So I would say your strategy, if I were you, it would be twofold. First and foremost, I would actually create your content around, again, like other people in your industry, because LinkedIn is truthfully one of the most valuable platforms right now, because the lifespan and the longevity of your content is closer to 2 weeks, whereas Facebook, it's usually 2 days. So I have posts a lot of times on LinkedIn that I forget about that are from a week or two ago, and all of a sudden somebody commented on it. It goes back to the top of the news feed, and all of a sudden it's still engaging. And so for LinkedIn, your potential to reach more people with really free content is exponentially higher than most other platforms. So when you think about that from a reach perspective for real estate, you'll probably, from a consumer perspective, a lot of those consumers may not be, if they're a first-time home buyer, maybe they are working for a big company rather than a business owner. So if you can go after and create content toward the industries you partner with that can get your content more widely seen, that'll be a way to get more closely aligned and in front of your ideal audience. And then from a messaging standpoint, I would be going after and targeting with InMail different people that maybe fit that kind of direction in building conversations and building relationships. And so I would take your InMail for more providing value, like, hey, saw you're connected to so-and-so on here, would love to just keep the conversation over. Hey, it looks like based on what you know, I don't know, like you don't want to make assumptions, but over time say, hey, I always like to provide value for people maybe not in my industry. Like maybe just throw out some blogs and be like, here's a really great article about investing in real estate, or hey, during COVID, like here's a really good resource on like just homeowners insurance to look into. Sometimes those valuable resources will spark up the opportunity for you to understand where they're at in the buying journey.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Hey,
Thank
Todd,
you.
I've got a question for you. I hear from clients a lot that the idea of targeting is, well, if I have a target, isn't that going to mean that I'm missing out on a whole bunch of potential opportunities? How would you address that?
Are you talking along? You mean like a niche? Like if you focus just on a specific audience?
Yes. Kind of going back to what you were saying earlier of, right, really know who your customer is and what they're all about. A lot of people have pushed back on that and said, well, that concerns me, because if I only am talking to that group of people, right, aren't I missing out on a bunch of sales opportunities?
Yeah. The way I look at it is, when you talk about and I use that term a lot when I was speaking, was consumer needs, consumer behavior. Focusing. The good news is that there are within your client base, your customer base, that's still pretty vast. It's still pretty vast. When I say find out what your customers want, I'm not suggesting that you narrow it down to one thing that stands out. The hope is that there are going to be many reasons why someone enjoys buying from you, working for you, whether that's B2C or B2B. So I think actually, I don't think when you get those answers, it's necessarily going to narrow it down. The goal from asking those questions is actually to expand that. So when I said about sitting in a room, you might actually limit yourself because you might think, well, these are the top 3 reasons why people work with us. And all of our messaging, all of our content, all of our strategies are going to be built around these 3 things. When in reality, between your service, your sales, your operations, all that, everything you do, there could be 15 things that people enjoy about you. So it's not necessarily about narrowing it down. It's more about just uncovering what the main ones are, and then trying to reach people throughout the buyer's journey, from awareness to decision to really understand who you are. So, Tim, you and I could both be looking to buy a trailer, but there might be one reason why I buy and one reason, why I buy, between the 2 of us. And as long as we feel that the place where we're looking can meet both of our needs and our wants, and they can engage with us where we want to be, then they're going to be able to sell to both of us. So I see it widening, not narrowing.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any other questions from the group or other builds on anything that's been shared so far?
Tim, I wanted to add to that if I could, please, actually. When you talk about the value proposition, I just want to add to that. I think it's a lot of people also confuse when you have a value proposition or a unique differentiator. That's definitely your leader, but that doesn't mean you throw all your eggs into that one thing. So if you lead with something that you think is the thing that is most valuable about you, it doesn't mean that's your only message. It's just your leading message. And then you fill in the rest with everything else that you do.
Great. Thank you. Gary, did you put your hand up? Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
So one of the things that I'm challenged with is, for us to be successful, we really need to reach the business owner, the CEO at the highest level. And, to get through the gatekeeper is tough. And what's the way to break through to those folks? That's why, business networking is good, because oftentimes that breaks through that. Are there other strategies that you guys are using that would be helpful to get to that top level person?
What's your current client journey, or what's your current journey when you have gotten to that person in the past?
Well, in this current role, I'm actually relatively new with Schooley Mitchell, and so I can't answer that. So I don't know.
I would say, is there anything that maybe you've tried right now, or I can give you some basic ideas as well from a high level?
Well, right now, I'm using my former contacts and really using the network that I already have to tap into.
Okay.
Familiarity seems to add trust and get you in the door much easier than a cold call. And the highest level person is usually pretty ineffective.
So truthfully, that's a really good question. I would say the most effective tool that I've found to just cut through the noise has been LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I think it's worth the $80 a month just to know the names and the people that you need to get in front of to really quickly identify the decision maker. And it's kind of funny, but I think Todd, I can't remember if it was you, Todd, or Tim, who said that we overcomplicate our marketing. It was probably both of you at some point, and it's so true. And I'm guilty of this too, right? Because I play with all these really fun tools every day, and I think sometimes I make everything more challenging than it is. And I just started to think about it, and it's like sometimes I think we make getting through to the gatekeeper and just we make marketing out to be this puzzle when it's really it's really a lot more simple. And so truthfully, it is not fancy whatsoever, but I can tell you that the best way that I've been able to cut through that noise, because that's typically when I'm selling to companies, I need to talk to the senior marketing director, or I need to talk to the CEO or the CFO as well. And I use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and I pay for White Pages Premium for $4.99 a month. I get that person's personal cell phone number, and I call them and I text them. It's not fancy. I ping them on LinkedIn. I get in front of them on their business page, and I just try to start a conversation. And so it's just trying to find those ways to cut through the noise. Now, that's my style. I am relatively kind of assertive and aggressive, and I don't do it in a mean
I was
or
going to say stalkerish.
yeah, but look at the data. I wanted to pitch. I'll give you an example. The thing is right now, I just cut through the noise and use it from a familiar. So I'll tell you what I do right now to land a conversation pretty often. It's just the whole concept of familiarity. I'll go on Sales Navigator. I'll ping somebody on LinkedIn. I'll connect with them. I'll maybe send them an email. They'll see my content because I have all my content automated. I batch all of my content about 6 weeks ahead of time. So I'll just go back usually every few days and go through and respond and comment, but I'm not manually creating that. People are seeing, so that person that's connected with me, chances are they're seeing me pop up frequently in their newsfeed. Then after a couple weeks, I'll go on White Pages. I'll get their phone number. I'll try to call them if I can. If not, I'll text them and be like, hey, so-and-so, it's Ashley. Can you give me a call when you get the chance? They typically call me. They're like, oh, yeah, we've connected, or I've seen you before. Why'd you call? It's like, yeah, actually, I had a quick question for you. Do you have a few minutes to talk? And I've already got through the door. And a lot of times what I find is business owner, they see the familiarity. Ashley's a common name. They've seen my face. They know me. They don't remember how they know me. And they're like, oh yeah, I just talked to a business owner the other day. He's like, didn't we just talk on Instagram? I'm like, no, actually, but we have some ways I think I can actually help you. And so, stalkerish maybe, but at that point, I think people are in front of their phones right now and people need help. So it's just getting to the point where you're almost like cutting through, and anytime that you can find, instead of knocking on the front door and find a backdoor way in, I would say go for it.
Mindset is also key. So your language, Gary, when you say that sounds stalkerish, guess what the people are going to perceive that you are? Versus if you change your language and you say, I'm helping people to buy, right? What Ashley's approach is she's just helping people make great decisions on their marketing, right? And she's not allowing her own perceptions, right, or fears or whatever to get in the way of doing whatever it takes to help people be successful. So, I talk about mindset a lot. We started this conversation with that. The way that we program our mind every day, it determines the level of our success, right? And so
I was being a little bit facetious.
yeah, for sure, yeah.
But it is, people do worry about being stalked. And to your point, Tim, I'm not trying to sell something that somebody doesn't need. I really am trying to help them. So yeah, my mind is helpful, not stalking.
Yeah. And it all comes down to numbers, right? So I'm sure Ashley would, when she's tracking her own numbers, not her approach isn't going to be 100%, but she knows how many calls she has to make, or how many pings she has to do, or how many text messages, right, to get one person to say yes. And you only need one, right, for that day's activities or that hour's activities.
Absolutely. And I think the messaging and the way that you approach it is key too. Like when I send that message, it's usually, I'm not trying to be like, hey, can I sell you this on LinkedIn? It's usually like a, hey, always looking to connect and grow my network. Like, great to know you kind of a thing. Hey, saw this article, shared it with a few of my clients. Maybe it's relevant to you, maybe not. I don't know. Or then even sometimes I just text them. Like there was a campaign that I really wanted to run advertising for somebody that's running for a congressional seat. So I just pulled their number. They're already getting bombarded anyway. I think it's just knowing, again, it goes back to everything Todd said about knowing your audience and knowing what you do and approaching it from really a conversational perspective instead of a selling one. I just sent her a voice message and was like, hey, don't know what you're up to. You're probably bombarded by a bunch of messages. So I'm sorry if this is one of them, but I really value what you're doing. I see some ways that I think I could really help you. Like if that's worth a conversation, just let me know. And you'd be surprised at how many people, some people get freaked out, but then other people, not freaked out, I should say. They're just, usually I think when you approach it with, like you said, Tim, like that mindset piece is huge. And you genuinely kind of come at it at a place where it's like, yeah, I can absolutely help this person get further, and just kind of a no pressure. It tends to pan out. I get a lot of random meetings like that. And even if not, if they don't become a client, it usually becomes a really great connection to the next person as well.
Gary, I have a question for you. In what you do and trying to, it's funny sometimes when I hear, and even though I'm in marketing, sometimes when I hear getting in front of that, getting past the gate, getting to that decision maker, I sometimes think more like sales than I do marketing. I mean, do you see yourself more as a marketer, marketing what you have to offer, or do you see yourself more as a salesperson? There is a distinction. I mean, they go hand in hand, but there is a distinction.
I got to think about that. It is a sales process because they need to buy into the service that we're buying.
Yeah. The reason why I'm asking, Gary, is if you still function in the sales, here's what's funny. I look at like when you hear the word progress, when we become progressive as a society, we're supposed to shed previous values, previous traditions, and move into something better. But just because something something's forgotten doesn't mean it becomes less relevant. I noticed that one of the things I love that most men have forgotten how to be a gentleman. So when I open a door, I impress the hell out of the woman I'm going on a date with. I say thank you very much. There was a time where if you didn't do that, you were that stood out. So I love the fact that people have forgotten certain traditions, because if you do those traditions, they might have been forgotten, but they're still relevant. And I can tell you right now, even though a lot of what Ashley and I talk about is digital, I want to encourage you. The reason I asked that question is things that used to work 10 years ago might have been forgotten. Doesn't mean they're not relevant. So you can still get creative with old tactics. Like if you want to get in front of it, and I mean, we're talking about messaging and narrowing down. No matter how well you do this, there's still luck involved. There's still lots of noise. I'm telling you right now, if you want to get in front of the decision maker, if you can get creative with your sales to complement your marketing, and you can somehow get something in the mail that gets their attention that really is creative, you can get past all that digital noise still. So don't forget that things that used to work. So is there something that you can mail to a CEO? And when they open it, it really grabs their attention. So I would think of yourself as a sales guy and a marketer at the same time. Never forget you're in sales. Digital marketing is great, but that does not mean that what used to work is irrelevant. In fact, it becomes more relevant and more noticeable. So as people forget things, handwritten notes, sending things through the mail, I mean, gifts, for the love of God, whatever, gifts. We forgot about sending people gifts. There are so many things you can do, Gary, to stand out that are sales focused that complement your marketing.
To Tim's idea about the lumpy package, a number of years ago, I could not get into a customer, and it's a longer story, but so I sent him this box, and in the box was sod, which was relevant to the sale, but it was a piece of sod. And then a letter and note. He got that. He called me the same day because it was so unique. He's like, who is this crazy idiot? I think.
Yeah.
And we didn't, we ended up not getting together, but it was effective because I stood out. And I think there's so much noise out there. I think making that difference is pretty important.
Yeah. And what I encourage you to do is, again, I encourage both. I'm not saying do one or the other. I mean, the online stuff, all the valuable content still works, but I wouldn't throw all your eggs in that. I do believe, just as much as I believe every department within a company is important, I do believe that there are multiple tactics and multiple ways of doing the same thing and doing them in concert, seeing what works.
And with everything, so I love the sod idea because, the sending something in the mail got to the point where it became commoditized, right? Like how many of us have received a logoed mug, right? Or a water bottle, or right? And I was in the corporate world for many years, and you could collect all the different stuff that company sent you, and it got put in the back corner, and you use what what was valuable, but you didn't pay attention to who it came from. Versus the sod, right? That stops somebody and is like, that's unique and different. Wow. Right? And so for all the tactics that we've talked through, there's ways to do it to stand out, and there's ways that you're just going to blend in to all of the other marketing activities that are coming through. And that's where I said earlier, there's no silver bullet, because that's the harder part of the marketing, right? Is to figure out how to talk specifically to the target, have a unique message that's going to be remembered, right? Have multiple touch points. Ashley talked about it. So we teach on the idea of at least 7 touch points before somebody's going to really pay attention to you, right? The idea of give before you ask, right? We say at least 2 value adds before you ask for anything in return, right? Because you want to build up that relationship. Like the idea of we only work with people that we know, like, and trust. So we've got to develop those relationships over time. And that's unfortunately where it becomes harder, because there's a lot going on, and especially, when we're in our day-to-day, right, we're really busy and we don't have time to step back and really think about the strategy, which is where, Ashley and Todd come in to help business owners, right, to be able to do some of that work on business owners' behalf, right, to leverage their expertise to help us think through what's the right thing to do, and challenge us back of, we may be thinking we're doing the right thing, and we need an outside opinion to say, yeah, you know what, that really isn't best practice. You're kind of wasting your money. So,
one thing I wanted to add, Tim, if I could, real quickly, is I love doing these things, whether I'm on the panel or just participating. One of the things that Ashley and I were struggling with when we were talking was, what do we share? Because we don't know everyone's pain points. We don't know everyone's struggles. So how do you give value without knowing everyone's unique situation? I'll let Ashley speak for herself, but I will tell you this. I'm happy to. I love doing this. I love sharing general information, but I say this sincerely. Anyone out there who wants to call me, Tim, if you can share my, I can put it on the chat. But if anyone wants to reach out to me, I mean legitimately, I don't want you to think, a marketing consultation, he's just going to try to sell me. I'm telling you right now, I'm not expecting anyone on this call to want to buy anything. I have, what I like to do is I love helping people. And honestly, what you're giving me is more than I'm giving you, because it gives me practice. The more I can talk to individuals one-on-one, learn challenges, learn how to help people, I become better at what I do. I mean, to be frankly honest with you, it's nice to give back sometimes. It makes you feel better. I mean, it's nice to get paid for what we do, but man, is it sure nice to just help. That's one of the things we learned through this pandemic. It feels good just to get back to the basics. So I'm going to put in the chat, and then Tim, if you could also share with all the people. I say it sincerely. Reach out to me. I'm happy to give you guys a 45-minute, 1-hour consultation. No strings attached. I'm not expecting you to do business with me. I just want to help you guys out. If there's anything I can do. And if what I tell you works, let me know. I could always use an ego boost. And then on top of that, maybe you'll know someone who needs someone like Ashley and myself. And then that's the way you can give back. So I offer that very sincerely. I love helping people, and I love talking marketing. So please reach out to me.
Thank you, Todd. And I'm sure Ashley would be welcome to do the same thing. I've seen your posts out in the social world. Is that fair assumption?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Feel free. No, I love it. I talk a little bit too much. So I love, if it weren't for my calendar, I think I would stay on the phone with people for probably 3 hours. So that's usually what happens. Thankfully, it keeps me accountable.
Your calendar keeps you focused.
Very highly ADHD here.
So it's a great segue. So both Todd and Ashley have offered their services to you folks. I'm offering mine as well, complimentary coaching session. So if anything that you've heard today, right, resonates with you on the marketing side specifically, right, please reach out to Todd and Ashley. Just in running your business in general, right, how to take your business to the next level. I offer a 2-hour complimentary coaching session. This is a deep dive into your business, identifying challenges, looking for opportunities. I share the lens of the Action Coach methodologies and principles. It's also a no pressure, no heavy sales pitch. It's focused on how to help you take your business to the next level and also understand a little bit more about what coaching is and if it's something that would benefit you. And if it is something that would benefit you, then we'll make a decision at the end of which coaching program makes sense. So my contact information is there as well. I will include, to Todd's point, I'm going to include everybody who's registered on the follow-up email with a link to this recording. And as well, you'll see everybody else's email, so you'll be able to reach out to folks and contact us to follow up on any of this. So in terms of next steps, it wasn't these words, but this is the theme of all of these webinars, right? Todd mentioned this at the beginning, if we just sit and listen to what we heard today, we'll absorb about 5%. If we took notes, that increases up to about 50%. However, the biggest failure that most people take is they get all excited about something that they learned and they write a bunch of notes and they say, I'm going to do these things, and then it sits on their desk and we do nothing, right? So the biggest risk is actually doing nothing. So I encourage you all to make sure that you're going to put some next steps into place. If you're dissatisfied with your business, I have another webinar that you can participate in. So I do these a couple times a month. This is the foundation that I opened with, the 6 steps to building a better business. It's an hour and a half deep dive into how to take your business to the next level. Would love you guys to join me at one of these. And then next week, we are going to be talking about getting unstuck. Right? If you're overwhelmed by the uncertainty of everything that's been going on and you're feeling unmotivated, going to be joined by Andrea and Jason next Friday to talk about how to get unstuck and stay motivated. So if you've registered in the past, you'll automatically be registered for this one and you'll get the reminder emails. And I do that just so that, we're all busy and we may forget. If you're not interested in it, right, just delete the email. But you will be automatically included. If you know others who might be interested, I'm going to copy everybody that attended today, right, on a thank you for attending, as well as a promotion for next week. So if you wouldn't mind just going ahead and liking or sharing or commenting on it, that would be great. So in terms of specific next steps, I'd like you to make sure that you write down at least 5 ideas that you took away from today. And then, more importantly, that tell yourself that you're going to take action on it. Don't just write it down and not do it. If you need somebody to hold you accountable, then make sure that you tell a friend or a colleague that you're committing to doing this, so that you make sure that you actually implement against it. If you're interested in being a panelist in the future, I love folks joining me and sharing their wisdom. And again, thank you to Ashley and Todd for today. And the way that we always end these is what we call a whiffle. And a whiffle is what I feel like expressing. And there's no guidance or direction. We just go around the group and everybody shares something that they feel like expressing. So we will start with Ashley. Ashley, what do you feel like expressing?
Oh my goodness. I'm just excited to hang out with you guys. No, thank you. I love getting to be a part of this. It's just so much fun. As an extrovert, quarantine has probably been one of the worst things that could ever happen, right? This is an extrovert's nightmare. You take me away from all my people. So I just had a blast getting to know all of you. Thank you so much for just great conversations. Tim and Todd, fantastic job. Learned so much from you, and great questions, everybody, as well. It's just been really fun getting to know you guys.
Thanks, Ashley. Todd, what do you feel like expressing?
I think I'm just going to build off what you said there about taking action, being accountable to yourself, or find someone who can keep you accountable. It's hard sometimes to be accountable to yourself, to be pretty disciplined. Like I said in the very beginning, marketing is it's the easiest thing. It's also the most complicated. And I think it's the most complicated because there's so much to know. And then, we have people telling us what we're supposed to do, and then we second guess ourselves. And a lot of times if we can't make a decision, we do nothing. And we just go in circles and circles and circles. And we find ourselves after days, weeks, months, we've done nothing because it's so overwhelming. What I would encourage you to do is have conversations with people, share your challenges, share your stories, whether it be a coach like Tim, a marketer like Ashley. What I would encourage you to do is talk when you have a problem or a challenge, whether it be marketing, operations, sales. Talk to somebody who can listen. Talk to someone who can give you feedback. Talk to someone who can, what do they call that when you listen and then you mirror it back to them? A lot of times the answer is right there, and we get in our own way. So it goes back to, how do we uncomplicate things? We uncomplicate things by freeing up our mind, taking a deep breath and refocusing, and just trying to take, and just give it a different look, give it a different perspective, and just try something. Try one thing at a time. Don't do too many things. Don't overwhelm yourself. Just try one thing at a time and do it step by step, and you'll eventually get to where you want to go.
Thank you, Todd. And Renee had to share hers on chat, so make sure you guys read her whiffle. Gary, what would you feel like expressing today?
As much as this is a trying time, I think it's an exciting time to be in sales, because people who were potentially fat, dumb, and happy before, they might be pushed toward making a change or looking at some things. So, Tim, I think you mentioned perspective. I think it's a matter of perspective. I think this is a great time, and then we'll go into a different time and perspectives will change, and our message and our approach may need to change a little, but I think there are great opportunities out there for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing. I love your energy. John, what do you feel like expressing?
Well, again, thank you everybody for your time in town and sharing. I took a handful of notes. In my role, I'm the CEO, I'm the CFO, I'm the CMO, I'm operations. So
Yay, right?
I know enough to be dangerous on marketing, so I learned a little bit today, took notes. I was re-energized about LinkedIn. That is an opportunity for me personally. And I've seen the stats, as I'm sure you have too, Ashley, that the profile of the LinkedIn participant has a higher average income than all those other channels, and more education. So yeah, watch out LinkedIn.
Thank you, John. Michelle, what do you feel like expressing?
I just put in the comments that it was great to see Renee on here too. I've actually got to get off here. I've got another Zoom call here in about 2 minutes. But it was great talking and hearing everybody's point of view and seeing another way to look at things for my marketing, because apparently I'm not good at it at this point. So it's one of my points I've got to work on. So thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. What I feel like expressing is gratitude to Ashley and Todd, generosity of your time. Thank you so much for investing in all of us and sharing your insights and wisdom with us. For everyone else who joined us today, it's just great to see folks looking for ways to build and grow and develop themselves and their businesses. It's why Ashley, Todd, and I do what we do, because Todd mentioned this earlier. We get way more satisfaction out of watching our clients grow and develop than anything else, and being able to come alongside of people and help them get to the next level. It's why we do what we do. It's why we offer things like today for free, because the more people that we can impact, the better we're all going to be. And the whole idea, Ashley mentioned this at the beginning, of if we save every business, we save the economy. So that's our goal, is to help everybody to be able to get through this craziness and get back to a better place. So I thank you all for being here today, and look forward to continuing to build a relationship with you. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much.